Good evening. Welcome to the July meeting of the Niskayuna Zoning Board of Appeals. Mr. Keddy, will you go ahead and call the roll, please?
Mr. Lataif?
Here.
Mr. Dolman?
Here.
Ms. Pacheco?
Here.
Mr. Daly?
Here.
Mr. Green?
Here.
Mr. Antonikowski?
Here.
Chairperson Hoke?
Here. The first matter on the agenda this evening is a review of the June 12th meeting minutes. Is there any discussion on those minutes? Having heard none, is there anyone who would like to make a motion?
Motion to approve.
A motion's been made. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
A motion's been made and seconded. Mr. Keddy, will you call the roll, please?
Mr. Lataif?
Yes.
Mr. Dolman?
Abstain.
Ms. Pacheco?
Abstain.
Mr. Daly?
Abstain.
Mr. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Antonikowski?
Yes.
Chairperson Hoke?
Yes. The meeting minutes from June 12th have been approved. Mr. Keddy, will you call the first matter, the only matter on the agenda this evening?
Appeal by GE Vernova for a variance from section 220-17A of the zoning ordinance of the town of Niskayuna as it applies to the property at 2690 Balltown Road, Niskayuna, New York, located in the IR Research and Development Zoning District, to construct a new building in a location revised from the March 20, 2024 approval, which exceeds the height limit for new buildings. Section 220-17 height regulations, A, states no building or structure shall exceed a height of 35 feet above the average finished grade adjoining the building unless otherwise specified in this chapter. The finished grade of artificial berms or similar earthen structures created for insulation or other purposes adjacent to the building shall be disregarded in the determination of average finished grade. As proposed, the building is 54 feet above the average finished grade, therefore a 19-foot height variance is required. 42 notices were mailed, 0 responses. We received a county referral, same as from March, and a planning board recommendation.
The county referral is approve of the proposal. The planning board memo is essentially the same with a tiny bit of updated information, but for the record, I'll just try and read it quickly. The planning board made the following recommendations, effect on the comprehensive plan. The planning board voted unanimously 6-0 that the proposed height variance would have no effect on the comprehensive plan. Suitability of use. The board voted unanimously 6-0 that the proposed variance was suitable for the use in the IR zoning district. They noted the building as a special need will be approximately 2,200 feet from Balltown Road and will not be visible to motorists. They noted it should not be overly visible to the adjacent public bike path either. They also stated the proposed building would be shorter than a few existing buildings on the GE Global Research Center campus and would be shorter than the proposed cryogenic building that was approved by the Planning Board and the Zoning Board of Appeals in 2022. They felt that in this zoning on this existing unique site, a building of this magnitude was a suitable addition. At the July 8th, 2024 meeting, it was noted that the revised location was significantly farther away from the bike path and that the revised location functionally improved the whole site and reduced the need for the parking waiver. The recommendation, the planning board voted unanimously 6-0 to recommend that the ZBA grant the height variance as proposed.
Will the applicant a representative of the applicant please come forward? State your name and address for the record, please.
Oh, was that intentional light dimming? Okay.
Only for you, Mr. Dumas.
Charles Dumas for the applicant, GE Vernova. I'm an attorney. I have with me Peter Lilholt from CT Mail and Matthew Savoy from the company.
Excuse me, sir, could you talk louder into the mic?
Sure.
Thank
Would
you.
you like me to repeat that?
No, I think you're
No.
okay, Mr. Dumas. Just moving forward. And before you start speaking, I understand that we substantially approved a similar application on March 20th. I've read the application that you've submitted. My understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that the height of the building and its general construction is more or less identical than the original application, with the exception of its movement on the GE footprint.
Yes, exactly. And I anticipated that the board would be a hot board and well-informed about our request. It's simply a modification from the prior approval that the board gave. The finished floor is almost precisely the same. All it needs is the approval of a modification of the different location. The purpose of of moving the building is really, I think, probably for better logistic use of the property. This was the approved location here, and it was to be conjoined with one of the laboratory buildings. This is the new requested location, which has been approved by the planning board. And the idea here is to conjoin it with this 22,500 square foot office building. And this is kind of old and dated. It's not used real well. I think it's probably late 80s, early 90s architecture. And the idea is to have a central receiving area here and to connect these two buildings. And it would give the direct air capture building access to this building in terms of resources for office space, storage, library, conference room, that type of thing. Laura, do you have the architect's rendering? Yeah, so this is the DAC building. It's precisely the same structure as was before the board before and what was approved. It's just roughly 1,000 feet to the northwest. This is the central receiving area that would be used to connect the DAC building with what the company calls Building 610. And it would have new skin, a central receiving area, which is important for security purposes and for receiving guests and visitors to the site to make sure they're properly processed and shown to the respective areas that they need. The other paradigm lacked that. And this makes, I think, better use of the site and a logistics sense for the company.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the board?
Mr. Dumas, just a question about the relocation of the building that is part of the proposal. Are there any changes in terms of environmental effects based on one position versus the other on the site?
Really none at all. All of the points made in my prior submission back in March are still applicable. There wouldn't be any change of a material nature at all.
Okay, and you mentioned that it's going to be farther away from the bike path than the previous one. Approximately how much farther?
Well, it's kind of interesting because, okay, so here's the bike path. With the building here, it would have been readily visible from the bike path. With the building here, almost not visible at all, because if you're coming up the bike path, this building is going to shield the new building. And of course, you have this heavy growth and vegetation here. So in many ways, for aesthetic purposes from the bike path, this is a much better location.
I think there's also a height difference, but I've not been down there
Oh,
myself.
no. I think CT Mail, Peter can speak to that
Okay,
if you'd like.
please.
Sir, if you just state your name and address for the record.
Absolutely. Good evening. My name is Peter Lilholt, Division Manager of Civil Engineering and Land Services at CT Mail Associates, located in Latham, New York. You're 100% correct. And for those who've been on the bike path, you may realize.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, go right
So-
ahead.
So at this location, there's only a modest grade change from the bike path to where the building was previously approved. But at this spot, there's like an overhead sign that suggests you get off your bike and walk because this is an extremely steep grade. There's kind of a switchback. The elevation, this is much, much lower at this spot. And when you're looking up at the hillside, all you could see is forest. And you can't even make out any of the buildings. I was there recently myself. When you look up the hill from the bike path down here up, you can't make out any of the buildings.
And
Okay, thank you.
just to follow up to that question, the difference in the grade between the original location versus the new location, what's that differential?
The exact number actually coincidentally is we're 0.3 of a foot lower at the proposed location over that which was approved. That wasn't by design. We're matching the finished floor elevations of the building we're connecting to. So the original location here, we're finished floor elevation 372.4 connecting to building 600 as it's known, whereas building 610 finished floor elevation is 372.1. So we're 0.3 of a foot lower with the proposed location.
Thank
Okay, and if I may follow up on that as well, the buildings that are in between the old location and the new location have a certain height to them. I know that the
Mhm.
older building you referred to on the north side is a lower one based on the architectural renderings that were provided. What's the height of the building? And I think it's called the High Bay
Yeah,
building. What's the
right-
height of that?
right there.
Yes.
I believe the height of the high bay is 64 feet.
64 feet, yes.
So this building will be lower than that.
Yes, that's correct.
What was that number again?
64.
And towards the driveway,
Mhm.
the other part of that building that seems to be connected to the high bay, how tall is that? Yes.
Yeah, that's building 600. That is a two-story building.
I guess this is about 35 feet, maybe 40 feet, somewhere in there.
No more than 40
Yeah.
feet.
I do have the heights probably buried in my material.
I think there was a chart of it
Yes.
at some point.
You may recall when we were before you in March, the necessity for the building height for the DAC building is the overhead crane that's needed to move the equipment. And this was the bare minimum height needed to operate the gantry and so on, and for the pick. And it's sloped. And the 54 is the maximum height, and it slopes down.
So the 54-foot, the tallest part of it is closest to the driveway, correct?
It's on this side, the west side, correct.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions?
Okay, just if you are able, yeses or nos. Same building,
Same building,
slightly different location,
slightly different,
less visible from the bike path?
correct.
Thank you.
Mr. Hope,
Yes, Mr. Lataif.
you did a good job last time you were in front of us, and you're still doing a good job tonight. I'm looking at the diagram you have there. Looks a little different. Is the dimension the same? To
Well-
me, the dimension looks a little different. Maybe the new glasses or,
This is an aerial photograph, and this was designed just to show in basic terms where the approved location was and where we desire to move the building to.
so the dimension is identical for what we approved last time?
That is correct, yes.
And the heights is identical?
Yes, sir.
How about, talk to me about the roof. What kind of roof you having on this building? Is it still,
It's a pitched roof. As Peter indicated, the front of the roof is the highest point, and it slopes to the back. It's my guess is that it's a membrane roof, right? Do we know the roof material? A metal
okay,
roof.
so the drainage, that's what's leading to the next thing. Where is all the water will be? Do you have a drainage system in
Oh, yes,
place?
yes, there is a site plan, and Peter can speak to it, but the idea is that the roof would drain to the back, and the stormwater facilities would be back here.
Okay. Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Right,
I'm sorry, I have another question.
sure.
Because the roof has not a super high slope, but it does have a slope, and it is metal, I would assume the standing seam metal type of material. Is there any anticipation that it would be used for solar panels?
No,
No plan for that whatsoever.
no,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Anything further from anyone else on the board? Having heard nothing further, is there anyone in the audience that wishes to be heard for or against the application? Having heard no one from the audience wishing to be heard, is there anyone on the board who wishes to make a motion for or against the application?
Mr. Chairman, I've heard everything, CT mail. I paid close attention to my notes, close attention to what you people wrote. And I see no reason why we should not, we should pass the applicant on the building. It's a complex thing, but GE's always done everything right for the town of Niskiuna. And they've always came in well-educated and explained to us and educated us, which is important to the board here because we are laymen. So with everything said tonight, I would like to see the applicant approved.
A motion has been made. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
A motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion? Having heard no discussion, Ms. Shakedi, will you call the roll?
Mr. Lataif?
I'm gonna vote yes, and I just want to add a few things. The benefit couldn't be achieved any other way. Looks to me, it's a better location for the applicant, and it's not causing any undesirable change in the neighborhood. Actually, it's a better spot to where it was originally. We have approved it. Is the request substantial? I have to say substantial in this case. There's other building that they have higher heights in there. And so the 54 is going to be even between the building, the 40 and the 64 heights. Whether request will have adverse physical or environment, it's not going to have much of physical environment effect. Again, all these buildings are close to each other, away from the road. And now with this building, it's going to be a little farther from the bike path. Whether the alleged difficulty is self-created, I'm just going to say it is self-created. But again, under all this consideration, I'm going to approve the application.
Mr. Dolman?
Yes, for the reasons stated.
Ms. Pacheco?
Yes, for the reasons stated by my colleagues and for the reasons stated in the previous vote to approve.
Mr. Daly?
Yes, for all of the reasons stated.
Mr. Green?
Yes, for the reasons stated.
Mr. Antonikowski?
Yes, for the reasons stated.
Chairperson Hoke?
Yes, for the reasons stated, I also indicate that the benefit sought for the purposes of the record is the placement of a crane inside the main structure. That crane has to be at a certain height, which necessitates the height of the building. So there is no other feasible means to achieve the ends of the applicant. And with respect to the substantial point, I would note that this campus is unique. And while this building in any other location in the town would most likely constitute a substantial request, or the variance would be substantial in any other part of the town, given its unique location, would not find this particular application a substantial request with respect to the height variance. So for those reasons and the reasons everyone else stated, I vote yes. So thank you. Your application's been approved. There are no other matters on the calendar this evening. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
All approved? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All against?
I did not get my money's worth today.